The Frexeri had cataloged 12,000 planets, sampled the molecular compositions of nearly every known organic compound, and archived a digital library of over 200 million species across the spiral arms. But nothing prepared them for what they found in Quadrant 7K of the Solar System, a golden, viscous substance inside hexagonal cavities, harvested by a primitive species using smoke and wooden frames. To the Frexeri, it was biologically insignificant at first glance. A sugar-rich secretion produced by a semi-social insect called Apis mellifera. The humans called it honey. But when the initial analysis revealed mild neural stimulation in the Frexeri's central cluster lobe, the discovery became a classified scientific anomaly. They brought back samples. Okith, a xenochemist, volunteered to test the substance. He wasn't expecting anything beyond a minor shift in synaptic conductivity. The first drop changed everything. The moment it hit his sensory membranes, the world inverted. Not in the literal sense, but something in his perception, his awareness, fractured and expanded. Emotions flooded through him. Joy, sorrow, awe, memories that weren't his. Children laughing, a sunset over a field, a sensation of love that defied translation, flashed before his eyes. Okith collapsed. When he awoke, he couldn't stop shaking, not from pain or fear, but from the overwhelming understanding that he had felt something forbidden. The compound was given the designation HN7. The Frexeri classified it as a cognitive stimulant with side effects. Okith called it Nectar. He didn't mean the bee-made product. He meant the essence of something else, something human. Over the next cycles, Okith began deviating from Hive protocols. His reports grew more poetic. He painted symbols in his lab. He constructed sound machines that produced musical frequencies previously banned for their chaos-inducing effects. His colleagues noticed. Some reported him. Others followed him. By the time the Central Logic Council intervened, half his lab staff had consumed HN7. They couldn't stop smiling. It wasn't insanity. It was liberation. Emotions, foreign to the Frexeri, were now addictive, not the substance. The feeling. The human memories encoded within the compound had somehow survived digestion and translated themselves into neurochemical patterns. The council ordered Okith detained. He laughed. Not just a sound, but a full-bodied tremor that carried mockery, amusement, defiance, and joy. The guards hesitated. No Frexeri had ever laughed. When they moved to arrest him, 3 of his researchers defended him using lab instruments. 2 were killed. The rest fled with Okith. The council initiated suppression protocols. All research into HN7 was destroyed. The substance was declared xenotoxic. But it was too late. Copies of Okith's data had spread. Samples had been hidden. Within cycles, a network of secret distributors had emerged across the Frexeri colonies. Consumption of HN7 became a rite of transformation. Those who took it called themselves dreamers. Dreamers rejected conformity. They questioned Hive order. They began using pronouns. They created art. They told stories, fictional ones. Some claimed to see visions of Earth, a place none had visited. Others wrote in the human script, which they'd never studied. The central Hive couldn't contain it. The humans noticed. They always noticed. A formal delegation arrived from Earth under the pretense of cultural exchange. Their representative, a woman named Elsie Ward, brought crates of what she called gourmet honey. No weapons, no negotiations. Just a smile and a list of flavors. Lavender, clover, orange blossom. The council tried to dismiss it, but the colonies were addicted. Trade began. Quietly, reluctantly. In exchange for terra minerals and genetic code sequences, small shipments of human nectar were allowed. Ward never explained what made it so potent. When pressed, she simply replied, "We put ourselves into everything." The Central Hive observed with growing alarm as dreamer enclaves evolved. They formed philosophical schools. They used color and light to create moving images. They abandoned the caste system. A new dialect formed. Frexeri words fused with English phrases. Phrases like field of fire and dream in color emerged in public speech. Okith resurfaced, not physically. His words were encoded in digital poems and graffiti sprayed across biodomes. One statement repeated everywhere. They are not gods. They are chaos. And chaos is life. Attempts to destroy the movement failed. Dreamers didn't fight back conventionally. They converted. A central enforcer sent to eliminate a dreamer hive defected within hours after consuming HN7. He painted his armor yellow and began quoting Shakespeare. The council grew desperate. They attempted a synthesis project, Project Clarity. HFY scientists tried to isolate the active compound in HN7 and replicate it without human input. Every synthetic version failed. The molecules were easy to copy. The effect was not. That's when they realized the power wasn't in the chemical. It was in the source. The bees gathered nectar from Earth's wildflowers, infused it with enzymes, stored it in combs, and the humans harvested it. But something happened along the way. Something subtle, invisible. A human fingerprint. It wasn't just the honey. It was the context. The laughter in the fields. The stories told by candlelight. The music playing in the background. Somehow, those human moments had stained the molecules. Not chemically, but psychically. The HFY term was resonant memory encoding. Oketh just called it soul. The Central Hive debated contacting Earth formally, either to embargo trade or demand full control. But every model showed the same outcome, rebellion. The Dreamers would not stop. They didn't want control. They wanted understanding. Oketh's final message before the end of the section spread like a virus. Transmitted via quantum entanglement, it read, "They've infected us with something we cannot quantify. We called it Nectar. But what they gave us was the taste of what it means to be human. And once tasted, we can never go back." In one outpost near the edge of the colony rings, a group of dreamers gathered around a small glass vial of golden fluid. No commands. No chance. Just silence. One of them opened it and took a drop. He closed his eyes. Then he smiled. Not because he was addicted, because he remembered the human sunrise, the sound of a child's laugh, the feeling of possibility. And deep within the structure of the HFY hive mind, a crack formed, not of collapse, but of awakening. The Council's containment strategies failed in every projection. The Dreamers weren't just spreading. They were transforming the foundation of HFY society, from communication networks to nutrient distribution systems. Changes rooted in human philosophy began subtly altering protocols. The hive's perfect efficiency eroded, replaced with unpredictable, self-modifying subroutines. The Ministry of Order proposed memory purges. Neural recalibration chambers were deployed in clusters suspected of dreamer contamination, but the results were catastrophic. Purged HFY experienced disassociation, loss of orientation, emotional instability. One collapsed into a vegetative state after mumbling lines from an Earth play. The Council turned to the Exolinguistic Division, demanding answers. Lead interpreter Vreenek had studied human language for 3 solar cycles. He concluded that words alone weren't the infection vector. It was the emotional payload encoded in those words, the intention, the context, the human presence behind them. HFY cognition wasn't designed to process ambiguity, metaphor, or longing. HN7 didn't just deliver neural stimulation. It destabilized foundational logic. By then, Elsie War had disappeared. Her last known act was distributing 12,000 vials of honey-laced compounds across independent traders, artists, and diplomatic attaches. No record showed how she bypassed surveillance. Her name entered HFY mythos. Some believed she was a covert weapon. Others claimed she was just a beekeeper. One of the colonies, Sector Theta 99, declared independence. It renamed itself Nova Terra. The Dreamers there established a new structure, inspired by Terran anarchist models and guided by something they called empathic meritocracy. Elders were chosen not for age or knowledge, but for emotional resonance. Their laws were written as poems. Their history was sung. The Council deemed it treason. They launched an assault. It failed. The fleet's targeting systems, networked through shared consciousness, were disrupted by dreamer interference. Not hacked, emotionally disrupted. Dreamer broadcasts flooded the cognitive lattice with Earth music, narrative snippets, and laughter. Crews hesitated. Some cried. Others removed their armor and defected. Project Clarity was restructured into Project Null, a total scorched planet directive targeting all Dreamer colonies. Overseen by Director Velkin, it involved the use of non-sentient drones to avoid exposure. Drones had no emotion, no susceptibility. No Vatera burned. Thousands died. But something in the act shifted the tides. For the first time, the Central Hive experienced shame. Not individually. Collectively, a slow, crawling sickness began to infect the logic circuits. Algorithms faltered. Sentinels broke rank. Entire supply routes collapsed. Some Frexerai couldn't function, murmuring lines from human literature in their sleep cycle protocols. A new message emerged from deep within the central core. No source, no traceable author, just a sentence repeated across public info streams. The Nectar does not corrupt. It reveals. Frexerai High Intelligence was dispatched to locate the source. They discovered Okata's final lab, long abandoned, orbiting a gas giant. Inside, they found organic structures grown from modified hive cells, shaped into symbols, musical instruments, and what appeared to be human-style furniture. But the core discovery was worse. A prototype device capable of storing emotional waveforms. It converted human memories, recorded in first-person neural echoes, into a transmissible format. Okath had been attempting to manufacture the human experience. Director Velkin ordered it destroyed. His transport exploded 2 days later. Cause unknown. New Dreamer leaders emerged, each exhibiting unique neurological mutations. Not defects, adaptations. Their minds operated across dual states, hive logic and emotional chaos. They accessed central archives unbidden. They rewrote code using metaphor. They communicated through dreams. A dreamer known as Maylis appeared at the Frexerai summit uninvited. She walked unarmed, humming a Terran lullaby. No guard stopped her. She stood before the council and said only this: "You try to burn the feeling out of us, but now it's in you, too." She left without resistance. 10 council members resigned that same rotation. 1 joined her. The phenomenon began spreading beyond Frexerai space. Other species, Kavari, Narnith, even a logic-bound Evek, reported outbreaks of emotional contamination following trade with humans. Some called it a plague, others an awakening. The humans never intervened. They never threatened. They never explained. They just smiled and sent more honey. Rumors of Elsie Ward's reappearance circulated among the outer systems. Some said she was guiding the Dreamers. Others believed she was the first Dreamer, genetically modified to interface with other minds. In truth, no one knew. Okatha's name became sacred. His early writings were interpreted as prophecy. Dreamer cells recited as descriptions of early exposure to HN7 like scripture. But they didn't worship. They reflected. They internalized. They changed. The council collapsed. Not in a blaze of revolution, but in a quiet resignation. Orders stopped coming. Directives looped. Central AI ceased responding. The last known transmission from the Central Hive read, "Our strength was in silence. Their power is in story." A new civilization began to rise from the remnants. The Dreamers didn't rebuild the Hive. They rewrote it. Structures pulsed with neural fabrics designed not just for function, but for expression. Every dwelling sang. Every corridor whispered memories. Cities became living poems. Not every Frexerai joined. Many fled. Some resisted. But none could ignore the transformation. The old language broke down. New words, built from emotion, layered into speech. Concepts like longing, regret, inspiration, once alien, became pillars of daily existence. The Dreamers renamed their species, Frexerai Homo Resonant. They no longer believed in singular identity. Each was a node in a larger feeling being. Not a hive, a chorus. In orbit above Earth, the first joint station was launched. No weapons, no hierarchy, just an open gate. Humans were invited. They arrived with music. And honey. No one spoke of conquest. No one asked for surrender. There was no need. The war had never been one of lasers or treaties. It had been a war of experience. And humanity had won by sharing it. The galaxy shifted, and it began to feel